Motoring 2012 on TSN is brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward.
Along with great weather, the state of Arizona is home to some fantastic highways, and take it from me, they're a joy to drive on. And that might be one of the reasons that Kia has chosen this area to launch the 2012 Rio Sedan. But I have to admit, I'm a little confused. It seems like yesterday that Kia was unveiling the Rio 5-door hatch. Now, aren't they the same cars? Isn't the sedan exactly the same as the hatchback, except it has a trunk and one less door? Well, we're going to find out when we get behind the wheel for the first time. And later, we're going to meet the man that many believe has transformed Kia into one of the hottest car makers on the planet today.
It is part of the family, although a few things have changed. The front fascia, for example, the grille has changed slightly, fog lamp design, headlight design, rear taillights, everything. Of course, the hatch is gone, so a different taillight design. But other than that, dimensions are pretty much identical. Someone looking at the Kia Rio versus the Accent, Kia is geared mainly towards more of a sporty appeal.
It's clearly not an Accent. Fundamentally, the engines are the same, the transmissions are the same, the suspensions are the same, but they tune them differently. And from a marketing point of view, it would appear that Kia and Hyundai only meet over the desk of the chairman of the overall company because they compete fiercely with each other. But as far as the Rio Sedan is concerned, when you look at the content at every price point, it's got to be sending everybody back to the drawing boards because there's an awful lot of content in a car that looks really, really good.
The Rio 5 sedan is powered by our 1.6-liter GDI engine, and this is a new engine that we've come out with, and it has a lot of technological innovation to deliver good fuel economy and more power. It also features more low-end torque, so it gives driver enhanced drivability. One of the main advantages of gasoline direct injection, or GDI as we call it, is that you get more power and more efficiency in the same size engine as you would with traditional fuel injection. The benefit is you get more power, you get more torque. It's easier to control and lower the emissions, so it's a very good technology.
Some likes and a pet peeve with the new Rio. First of all, I really like these wheels. Unfortunately, they're only available standard on the EX Luxury, but boy, they give this car and the Optima a distinctive, sporty look. Luggage space, oodles of it, even more when you drop the back seats down. And of course, I love those amber turn signals. They should be on every vehicle on the road in this country. My pet peeve, the trunk. Yeah, lots of space inside for your luggage, but there's no latch for easy access, and that is irritating.
Hyundai and Kia are exactly the same company. They're owned by the same parent company, but it's amazing how different their product looks. They feel somewhat the same, but unlike GM, where you had Buick and Chev and they were virtually identical, the cars between Hyundai and Kia look vastly different. Kia is supposed to be the youthful brand of the two. I just say that they're the best styled brand, maybe of the Asian imports altogether. The Kia Rio 5 is just one cute little buggy. I mean, it's the cutest little thing not wearing a mini badge, honestly. And this new one, the Rio Sedan, is not quite as cute, but it's still it's got a very European flair. Peter Schreier, the head designer now of Kia, used to work at Audi and Volkswagen, and you can see a lot of influence from Germany, Europe in general, in the new Kias.
It's interesting to see how these two companies, with essentially the same technical hardware, are positioning the vehicles differently, they're equipping them differently, they're pricing them differently, and I guess they hope that there's room for both. Just the facts, ma'am. And if you don't get that, ask your grandfather. More later on Kenzie's Corner.
The whole notion of souping up a Cadillac Escalade doesn't really make a whole pile of sense. On this edition of Test Drive, we take a look at the supercharged Sport Edition by SLP. Oh, and by the way, it is an Escalade and it is souped up. SLP's work starts with a body kit that brings a composite hood with chrome finishes and a polycarbonate window that allows passers-by to admire what lies beneath. It also counts Cadillac's Platinum Edition upper and lower front grilles, as well as body-coloured side skirts. It all serves to let the world know that this is not your grandpa's Escalade. You see, it's what hides beneath the bright work that really makes the difference. The cabin of this supercharged Sport Edition remains pretty much true to the Escalade. That means seating for 7, enough cargo capacity for a small car, and all of the power toys you could possibly want, including a very good radio, nav system, and of course OnStar. As for SLP's contribution, embroidered headrests, floor mats, and a plaque on the dash. In simple terms, SLP takes a monster SUV and breathes new life into it. Gone is the 6.2-litre V8 engine and its 403 horsepower in favour of a supercharged version of that same V8 that earns a Blackwing cold air intake and an axle-back exhaust system. The combination increases the Escalade's output to no fewer than 525 stallions. Obviously, having an extra 122 horsepower along for the ride makes a massive difference, but it's the torque on tap that really makes the driver sit up and pay attention. Where the base engine twists out 417 pound-feet of torque, which is a stout number in its own right, the supercharged SLP motor churns out 517 pound-feet. This not only improves the initial launch, it brings a brawny mid-range that continues through to insane speeds. The top speed? It's capped at 280 kilometers an hour. All of that work turns this Escalade into a seriously quick vehicle. It'll run to 100k in 5.6 seconds, and it does the more important 80 to 120 passing move in 3.8 seconds. Now that's as fast as many serious sports cars. Yet this thing, it's a 6,000-pound SUV. I've always maintained that increasing the unsprung mass of a vehicle designed to lounge rather than run was the epitome of madness. In many cases, the upsizing goes to the point where the suspension simply cannot keep up. It turns out that when the correct measures are taken, upsizing the rubber not only increases the grip level, it works. In this case, it brings 295/40 Michelin tyres mounted on attractive 22-inch rims, the front suspension has been lowered by 51mm, and there are larger anti-roll bars front and rear. While the base binders on this Escalade do a pretty good job of stopping 6,000 pounds, if you're into the SLP and you're considering it, take the optional Brembo brake package. They not only give you much more latitude on the street, if you decide to track this car, and trust me, that's not pie-in-the-sky thinking, it means much less fade. In the end, SLP's work really does serve to put ballet slippers on a full-sized SUV. Cadillac's coilover shock front and 5-link rear suspensions, along with the magnetic ride control shocks, does a good job of preventing the big ute from heeling over in the first place. SLP's upgrades give the steering far more precision, and the handling has a more hunkered down feel than the stock truck. No, I'm not talking sports car light on its tyres, but the supercharged Sport Edition proved to hang in well beyond rational limits. I've never really been much of a fan of the Cadillac Escalade, primarily because it was too big and too heavy for the engine under the hood. The work SLP do, well, it transforms the ordinary to the extraordinary. The 525 horse version, it is a hoot. However, for those times when enough, well, it's never really quite enough, there's always the 700 horsepower version.
The Impreza is a compact car. Most people in Canada don't realize that Subaru produces a compact car. They know about Outback, Forest, or even WRX and STI, but not so much about Impreza. The compact car segment is the largest segment in the automotive industry here in Canada, so it's very important to us.
But we needed a car that stood on its own as a true compact car, and there comes in the Impreza. So we made a number of different changes. The styling, for example. When you take a look at this vehicle now, stronger lines to the vehicle, a stronger character and personality to this vehicle.
We've changed everything. One of the big challenges was a lot of customers appreciate all-wheel drive, but they didn't want to have poor fuel economy, so we increased the fuel economy to be comparable to a front-wheel drive car. They also said, don't make the car bigger, make it the same size, but give me more space, so we did that as well. Impreza is known for great handling. They wanted more fun to drive, so we gave them that, revised suspension. But also, we've added a lot of things as well, soft touch materials. All vehicles come with four-wheel disc brakes, and we tried to add things into the vehicle rather than take things away, which we've seen in the industry lately.
This new Impreza delivers a 30% improvement in fuel economy, which will be a big hit with a lot of our consumers. In fact, even though it has a smaller fuel tank than last year, this new Impreza can achieve over 1,000 kilometers on highway driving.
Now, one of the reasons for the improved fuel mileage has to be the fact that the Impreza now comes with a smaller engine. It's based on the new one they put in the Forester, but that's a 2.5 liter. The Impreza comes with a 2 liter. How do you convince the customer that smaller is better?
Yeah, it's true. How we can sell it is actually with the new CVT transmission. The 0 to 60 time is actually faster than the previous model, even though the previous model had more horsepower. Also, this new vehicle is quite a bit lighter than the previous one. So you get the performance that you want out of the lightweight and with the transmission, and you actually get better performance despite the smaller engine size and output.
So the Impreza has a CVT transmission. I've said it many times before, I'm not big on them. I know they're good for fuel savings, but when you're driving along and you put your foot and you want to pass or just pick up some speed, it feels like the engine and the car are connected with a bungee cord and the car is trying to catch up to the engine. Really irritating.
In the bullseye, there's quite a number of competitors. Mainly, we would say probably Mazda 3, the Volkswagen Golf, and to a lesser extent, Civic, Mitsubishi Lancer. But those are really the cars we're going after. We think with this vehicle, we can appeal to a lot of those customers based on the styling and also, especially the fuel economy. It's very comparable to them, but with all-wheel drive.
See that? Even here at the car show, they got their signals on. So out on the highway, my question is, what's wrong with you? Want to see what I got to say about it? Go to motoringtv.com.
Through these 13 days, we're putting about 500 people through this event. So it's really a brilliant opportunity for us to really show what Porsche's all about.
You know, Kia is one hot car company. Globally in 2011, sales were up almost 19%. They did even better here in Canada at almost 21%. And you know, a lot of this success has been attributed to one man, and his name is Peter Schreier.
However much money they're paying Peter Schreier to be their chief designer, it's not enough. They've really established a look for Kia in a relatively short period of time.
The great thing about Peter Schreier is he is a world-renowned designer, as we know, and he did very well for Volkswagen. And he brought a lot of aggressive and interesting, innovative ideas to Kia Motors and virtually transformed the entire brand.
I do have the clean sheet to work and I have a lot of freedom, so I can really take Kia into a direction that I think is the right one. We always get the chance to work on some new concepts, like you see the GT concept here. It always gives us the chance to try out some new things, and sometimes these things see the daylight.
Our motoring tip of the week concerns improving the performance of your vehicle's headlights. Now on our 02 Yukon that Brad and the crew guys drive, we can see that the headlight lenses are in pretty good shape. Now most vehicles today have plastic headlight lenses, so they are subject to deterioration over time. They can go cloudy, they can yellow, they can get pitted from road grit if you're driving the highway a lot or if your vehicle has high kilometers. in any case, once that lens deteriorates, no matter how good the bulb is in there, your lighting performance is diminished. When that happens, you've got a chance to restore that. Now, there's a number of manufacturers that make kits, we've got 2 of them here today, that will help you as a do-it-yourselfer restore the finish of your headlights. Now, there's lots of garages that will do this professionally at a reasonable cost, but you can buy one of these kits. One of them's about $25, the other one about $37, and a pretty simple do-it-yourself thing. On this one, you use a fine grit wet sandpaper and a polishing compound, and you basically use elbow grease to restore the finish of the headlight lens. Then you've got good lighting performance. With this one, you chuck the buffer wheel into the chuck of a cordless drill and use the drill and the buffers to do the same thing, thereby reducing the elbow grease. And again, you've got a polishing compound to finish off the job and give you that bright new finish again on the headlight. Now, in the case of our Yukon, where the lenses are good, if we wanted to improve the lighting performance, we'd buy some high performance bulbs, change both the headlight bulbs, and we're gonna have much better lighting performance. But the bottom line is, if you can see farther at night, if you could see that obstacle, that car pulling out, the kid stepping off the curb 1 or 2 seconds earlier, imagine how much safer your vehicle could be. That's your motoring tip of the week.
The quality of the Dodge Durango's predecessors is certainly nothing to write home about. Having said that, I do ask of you to forget everything you've ever thought of the Durango. Why? The answer's simple, because this 2012 third generation model is a completely new machine. Thanks to when Chrysler and Daimler were still in cahoots, this latest Durango shares a Mercedes GL chassis, and coupled with that very efficient undercarriage is a vehicle that exudes an exterior that is both aggressive and bold. Whereas before it was an oxymoron to use the words Durango and quality in the same sentence when describing its interior, now thankfully all those hard, dreadful plastics are out and they've been replaced by all the latest technology and an abundance in soft-touch materials. This top-of-the-line Citadel can easily seat 7 people and will appease most drivers. A backup camera, sunroof, both heated and cooled seats, GPS and a heated steering wheel are just a few features it boasts. You do get a choice of 2 engines. The V8 Hemi may be intriguing, but the 3.6-litre V6 Pentastar provided enough kick. The responsive suspension setup withstood your average bumpy roads, and if you're still not convinced, it can tow a staggering 6,200 pounds comfortably. The Durango's Bluetooth connectivity is something called Uconnect. What it allows me to do is connect my phone to the infotainment system. Now, unfortunately, my accent causes voice-activated systems all kinds of grief, and I find myself calling dodgy strip joints when all I'm trying to do is get through to a pizza parlor. Let's see how the Durango gets on.
Uconnect phone.
Call Claire.
Would you like to call Claire? Home, work, or mobile?
Mobile.
Calling Claire. Mobile, is this correct?
Yes.
Calling.
So there you have it. It had no problem with my accent. I am impressed. There are 4 trim levels available with a $12,000 spread. As impressive as the Citadel is, be warned that the Durango's base model doesn't come with heated seats. You can get into one of these for about $38,000, and this one, the Citadel that's tested today, caps out at just over $50,000. Now you might think that's a lot of money. Well, in actual fact it could be, but when you consider that it shares the same chassis as a Mercedes GL, which starts easily in the 60s, I think this Durango is a bargain.
Closed captioning of Motoring 2012 is brought to you by
Greener, fuel efficient, global. This is Chevrolet Now, driving our world forward.
I don't know if you know what that ring stands for, but that's the kind of ring that every engineering graduate in Canada gets to wear, and I'm proud to wear it. The problem with being an engineer is that you have to be based on facts. You got to understand what's actually going on, which means I have no future in politics, because it would appear facts and politics have no bearing. Now, I've said some of this before, but it struck me just recently when the President of the United States announced that he's going to consider raising the subsidy on electric cars from $7,500 to $10,000. Now, there's not an economist in the world that wouldn't agree that subsidies are almost always a bad thing because they distort the market. And we do have some facts on the market's acceptance of electric cars. And that acceptance is approximately 0. The Chevy had to discontinue production of the Volt for a few weeks to balance inventories. None of the other electric cars are selling particularly well. Even hybrids, which technically have some potential use in some circumstances, less than 3% of the market. The only solution, again, as I've said before, if you want to reduce the amount of fuel we use, you got to raise the price. That is the fact. Now, we all complain about the price of gasoline. The fact is it's the cheapest thing you can buy in a gas station. The problem that Mr. Obama faces and that politicians everywhere face, if you raise the price of fuel, you're probably going to lose the election. So what can you do? You're caught between a rock and a hard place. Well, the only thing you can do is listen to the one voice of reason. That's me. I'm just kidding. I'm Jim Kenzie.
So Kia now has a brand new Rio hatch and sedan in the showroom. And although under the skin they're basically a Hyundai accent, there are differences in the drivability. They're very subtle. I would recommend driving both products. Either way, I like the car, and of course the content, incredible. And that's been a big advantage for Hyundai and Kia. Now, do you go sedan or do you go hatch? Well, some people like the security of the sedan trunk. Personally, I like the hatch, much more sporty look. Now, in 2011, for the very first time, Kia sold 60,000 vehicles in Canada. Its goal for 2012, 80,000, and you can bet it's going to put a lot of pressure on the Rio to help it reach that lofty goal. Before we go, make sure you check us out at motoringtv.com, and of course, join us on Facebook for the total motoring experience. That's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the 2013 groundbreaking Dodge Dart.
Motoring 2012 on TSN has been brought to you by Michelin, a better way forward.